This chart shows reported fraud losses by Americans over the age of 60 between 2020 and 2024. As the data for 2024 appears, notice how the financial damage spiked from $600 million to $2.4 billion. These syndicates operate by following a precise psychological playbook designed to bypass human defense systems. The ideal target for these syndicates is usually an educated, independent older adult, often a widow or widower living alone. The scammers are searching for a specific vulnerability, the profound isolation that sets in when a house is suddenly empty. Scammers gain direct access to life savings by weaponizing a victim's need for connection and hijacking their empathy. To understand how a stranger gains that kind of access, we have to look at the biology of aging. As we get older, our brains naturally shift in how they assess risk and process trust. This diagram illustrates a UCLA study focusing on the anterior insula, the brain region generating our gut feeling for risk. Younger brains show high activation here when looking at untrustworthy faces, while older brains show a muted, almost silent response. Because that visceral warning bell doesn't ring as loudly, older adults become biologically more susceptible to trusting fabricated online identities. To exploit this trust, criminals adopt specific professional personas, like military officers deployed in Syria or petroleum engineers trapped on an offshore oil rig. These roles establish immediate authority, while providing a permanent, built-in excuse for why they can never meet in person. This physical distance is highly deliberate. It forces every interaction into a controlled digital space, where the victim's entire attention is funneled into text messages and emails. Scammers weaponize both the victim's aging biology and the illusion of physical distance to bypass initial skepticism. With the target isolated, the criminal initiates a structured grooming process, known as the scammer's persuasive techniques model, to systematically dismantle the victim's rational boundaries. The process begins with the idealized mirror. Scammers study the victim's profile and reflect their exact desires back to them, using intense language to trigger a rush of dopamine and create instant intimacy. Next is hyper-personal grooming. The operator immediately moves the conversation off dating apps to private messaging. They enforce isolation by demanding constant contact, often using time zone differences to induce sleep deprivation through late-night chatting. This flowchart outlines the scam's psychological progression. The victim starts motivated to find a partner, sees an ideal profile, and is led into the grooming process. Once trust is locked in, the criminal introduces a sudden, fabricated emergency demanding immediate financial help. This relies on a strategy called power inversion, a manipulation strategy where the scammer feigns absolute helplessness, tricking the victim into feeling like a strong, capable savior who is in control. What starts as a small request for a gift card quickly escalates into thousands of dollars in wire transfers. The requests compound, pushing the victim toward a continuous loop of financial drain and re-victimization. By this point, the victim is trapped by the sunk cost fallacy, a cognitive bias where a person continues investing in a losing endeavor simply because of the heavy resources they have already committed. To stop sending money means admitting the entire relationship was a lie. The completed cycle creates a trauma bond, a deeply dysfunctional attachment formed through an alternating cycle of severe emotional abuse and intense positive reinforcement. Inside this bond, the promise of love entirely eclipses the reality of financial ruin. It is a common misconception that individuals who fall for these operations are foolish or uneducated. Under the right biological and emotional conditions, anyone's psychology can be systematically hacked. The scam succeeds when it weaponizes a target's most redeeming qualities: generosity, empathy, and the capacity to love. When the illusion finally breaks, the victim faces a dual aftermath. They must first process absolute financial devastation while simultaneously enduring the profound grief of losing a partner who never actually existed. The ultimate theft is the future the victim was promised, leaving behind an empty silence, while the cycle quietly begins again for someone else.